Reading from the book of James. Dearest brothers and sisters, all good giving and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no alteration or shadow caused by change. He willed to give us birth by the word of truth, that we may be a kind of firstfruits of his creatures. Humbly welcome the word that has been planted in you and is able to save your souls. Be doers of the word and not hearers only, deluding yourselves. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. The word of the Lord.
Our second reading for this Sunday comes from the letter of James. We have been reflecting on fidelity to God's law, which appeared clearly in the first reading. Now, in the second reading, the same theme is repeated, but with a certain nuance and with its own stress. While in the first reading, Moses talked about the law of God as God's gift, as God's grace, to which Israel should be faithful, and fidelity involves living according to the law. Now we have St. James telling us about the Word of God. Well, the law of God is part of the Word of God. But here we are given an important teaching about our Christian life. It is the Word of God, spoken by the God of truth, and therefore it is a word of truth. This word gives birth to us. The Word of God gives birth to us as God's children. It gives birth to us as the brothers and sisters of Jesus Christ. So we owe our spiritual existence to the Word of God. Thanks to the Word of God, we have become like first fruits of the new creation, the creation on the level of grace, of salvation, thanks to the Word of God. So if in the first reading, the law of God is a vehicle of God's grace, in the second reading, the Word of God is truly God's ways of being gracious to us and God's way of recreating us. And so, St. James tells us that this Word of God has taken root in us. Thanks to baptism, this regenerating Word of God has already taken root in our hearts. Now, what is our response? According to St. James, we should welcome the Word of God. While the Word of God is already there, we should consciously, deliberately, willfully receive it, welcome it. And how do we know that we have already welcomed and received the Word of God that already has been planted in us? By acting on that Word. So the same. The law of God is there to be observed. The Word of God is there to be acted upon. So St. James says, if you just listen to the Word of God and you stop there just on listening and you do not act on it, then there is something that is terribly missing in your behavior and in your dialogue with the Word of God. So listening to the Word of God, accepting the Word of God, leads to actions of charity, like taking care of orphans and widows. And we can add many more actions on behalf of the poor, acts of compassion. They are all rooted in our reception of the Word of God. My dear brothers and sisters, it is a Sunday. We will again hear the Word of God. Will we just listen, or will we act on it the way St. James asked us to do?